Rita with Everything Homemade, and I just want to say thank you so much for purchasing your brown rice sourdough culture from us. Now in this video, I'm going to take you step by step on how to hydrate and get your culture active so you can have your very own brown rice sourdough culture year after year. I'm going to show you how to keep it healthy and happy. I'm going to go in great detail and show you how to keep it going. So the protocol on how to feed it once a week, what to do when you can't feed it once a week, what to do when you go on holidays or need a break from your culture. All of these questions I'm going to answer, but I'm also going to show you how to take discard out, how to refresh it, all those techniques that everybody who is starting out with sourdough needs to know or has questions about. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to make your own rice flour really simple. It actually is way cheaper if you can just make your own rice flour at home just by buying brown rice from the store. So we're going to turn this into flour, and I'm going to show you how to do that first thing. And then the rest of the video, I'm going to show you how to take your sourdough dried culture that you bought here and activate it and get it going. When we get it going and we're at that stage, then the next video I'm going to go in depth on how to take care of that sourdough culture so you can make wonderful creations in the kitchen for your family. So the very first thing that you need to do in order to activate your brown rice sourdough starter that you purchased is you need brown rice flour. Now that can be quite expensive. You're looking at, a tiny little bag, the last time I checked, is anywhere between $25 and $30 Canadian. And a little bit of a bigger bag, you're already at $50, $60 Canadian, and that is a lot of money. But you can save money by just purchasing brown rice in your local grocery store. So I just have some brown rice here. I have 2 cups, and I'm going to make my own brown rice flour, and I only need a blender to do that. Brown rice is quite soft, like it's not as hard as wheat or corn, and the blender just works great. So let's blend this up. You'll need about 40 to 50 seconds for it to get to a really nice consistency. And then once you got that, you got this beautiful flour right here that you're going to use. So we're going to make this right now. And I'm going to put it on the highest setting that my blender goes. Don't worry, I have a blend tech, but that doesn't mean you need to have one. Just an ordinary blender will do the job just fine. Perfect. So take a look at this. Look at that beautiful flour in 50 seconds. So what I'm going to do is just add this to my flour right here. There we go. And if you run your hand through it, it's quite smooth. It's not gritty or anything like that. It makes beautiful flour. So this is a really cost savings when you want to do gluten-free as just make sure you got a blender and blend it up. Okay, so now that we have our flour made, now we can go ahead, grab our package and some water, and then a wide mouth canning jar, and let's activate our culture. So what I have here is my flour, a 1/4 cup scooper here. I have a 4-cup wide mouth canning jar. You can actually use a 750 milliliter yogurt container if you don't have a canning jar. In that case, any kind of jar where you can just put the lid on but not seal it, because you need to have the gases released. If you can't have a jar that you can just place the lid on, but you need to secure it, then make sure that you make a habit of opening it once in a while. Otherwise, you can blow the jar or blow the lid off. The other thing that you can do is have a cloth, something like this, and you can put an elastic around it. Now in my household, this is a disaster of an idea, just because I have cats in the house and the cats like to eat my elastic bands. So this idea does not work. But if you don't have animals in the house, or maybe just a dog, you can just put an elastic around it. Just make sure whatever fabric you're using, that it is tightly woven. So you can see here, even if I stretch this quite hard, it doesn't pull apart, because fruit flies love the smell of sourdough. So if you don't have this sealed or a lid on top that can prevent them from going in, you're going to have fruit flies, and they're going to lay eggs, and it's absolutely disgusting. Plus, other critters are attracted to that wonderful smell of sourdough. So those are your options. That's what you're looking for. In order to activate it, you need something around the 4-cup mark to make your culture. Okay, once you got that all sorted out, what you need is a 1/4 cup of just lukewarm water. Just make sure it's not hot, because if you use hot water, you're going to kill your culture. Also make sure that your water does not contain any chlorine. Really bad, it can kill the culture. So you just want a 1/4 cup. You also will need a 1/4 cup of the flour that you just made. And that is, oh, and your culture, of course, and your culture. So you will need to open up your package, so do that. You can actually do this right beside me here. So if you got your culture, just pause it and go grab it, get these things, and let's do this together. Okay, so I just opened up my package, and what you're gonna find is 2 packets. I like to include always 2 packets, because just in case you mess up for some reason on the first one, you gotta back up. And I mean, who knows, sometimes things just happen. So open up one of them and get it ready. Once you have it open, what you wanna do is spill the contents into your jar. And it'll look something like that. It almost looks like the rice flour, but with cultures in it. So you have that in the bottom of your jar. Now what you want to do is pour your water over. And remember, I have a 1/4 cup of water. Now you want to stir this in. You can use a wooden spoon, you can use a little bit of a whisk, it doesn't matter. Just mix that in a bit, that's good. And now what you want to do is grab a 1/4 cup of flour. Now the ratio is 1 to 1. So if you add a 1/4 cup of water, you need to add a 1/4 cup flour. If you are adding a 1/2 cup of water, you need to add a 1/2 cup of flour. If you're adding 1 tablespoon of water, you need to add 1 tablespoon of flour, so forth and so on. So it's a 1 to 1 ratio, which makes it really super easy to remember. And just mix it up really well. So it looks something like that. Okay, so that was really simple, wasn't it? So what you need to do now is take your lid or your cloth, and what you need to do is just gently put it on top. Now, you definitely do not want to screw this tight. You don't want to do that. You want to make sure that it's just resting on top, because what happens is that as this culture wakes up from being sleeping, it's going to want to start dividing, and it's going to start eating that brown rice. That's their food. Once they start doing that, you're going to see little bubbles like in this one here, and those bubbles release gases. And so if your jar is totally closed up, sealed, those gases build up and it can actually just go poof and explode your jar. Your lid can explode, but if your lid can't pop off, it'll put so much pressure on the jar that you can actually explode your jars. Now, it's really funny because my kids sometimes laugh because I have some culture in yogurt containers as well in the fridge, and once in a while they hear a poof and the yogurt container will blow off the lid. And I make a habit of every morning taking off the lids and opening it, but culture is culture, and let's say overnight it builds up. Well, you want to try to prevent that. Now, I have those in plastic, but you do not want your jars to break. So again, you can give it a light twist if you want it a little bit more secure. So let's say you want this lid to stay on a little bit more, like this, where I can grab it but it doesn't pop off. That's still okay because it can lift up, and the gases can get released. Okay, so if you're using a yogurt container, make sure, especially at this stage, that make a habit every time you walk by it on the counter, just crack it open. So just kind of like whoop it open, and the gases will go out really quick. If it's in the fridge later on, as we discussed that, you can just open it once a day and it works just fine. After you have placed your lid or your cloth on, make sure you put this in a warm room. Now, I'm not talking 30 degrees Celsius. I'm talking room temperature. Anywhere between room temperature and 25 degrees Celsius is fine. Make sure it does not go in direct sunlight. You don't want sunlight to penetrate. It's just not good at all. So you want it off on your counter, off to the side, and just leave it for 24 hours. Let that culture wake up, and then after 24 hours, I will come back and show you what it looks like and show you how to feed it again. And we gotta get this culture growing. So it needs a few feeds, and I'm gonna show you every step on how to do that. So I will see you back in 24 hours. So 24 hours has passed. Let's take a look at our culture. And not really that exciting. It doesn't look like I can see any bubbles. Although it does have that sourdough smell, I don't see a lot of action happening. Even if I kind of give it a little swoosh, those bubbles I kind of made swooshing it. So we just need to feed this again. Let's do it again. A 1/4 cup of rice flour in there with, remember, 1-to-1 ratio, 1/4 cup of water. And now we're just going to mix it. And my kitchen was a little bit cooler, so I'm thinking I'm going to try to find a little bit of a warmer spot, just because the temperatures are changing here. So I'm gonna just maybe indirectly put it closer to maybe like a furnace vent, not right on it, but just a little bit warmer. I find brown rice culture needs a little bit of a warmer spot than, let's say, like a whole wheat when we start. So we fed it again. Just because you don't see any bubbles doesn't mean it's a write-off. Things take their time. This is culture, okay? It follows its own rules. So I'm gonna just set this aside. I'm going to wait another 24 hours. We'll check in on again, and hopefully we see bubbles tomorrow. So let's check it out. So this is day 3. And take a look. We have some action happening here. We have some bubbles in there. I hope you can see that. They're not huge and big yet, but there's definitely carbon dioxide being let out and some bubbles there. I mean, you can see them. I'm hoping that comes out clear on the camera. And when you move it around, you can see those typical bubbles of sourdough. So that is pretty awesome. So I'm going to give it just a little swirl. We're going to give this new culture a really good feeding. So we're going to add a half a cup of, again, just room temperature water, and then we're going to add a half a cup of the brown rice flour. And you can also smell it. Like, you can smell that typical sourdough smell. And now we're really gonna focus on feeding it. Get a really good feeding so it can grow big and strong. There we go. And now we still want to make sure that we put out on the counter, has to be at room temperature or a little bit warmer. If it's cooler than room temperature, this whole process is going to slow down. It will happen, but it's going to take a lot longer. So you really want to find that warm spot in the house to get this culture going. Okay, so we did a really good feeding here. And what we need to do once again is just place that lid or the cloth back on, and we're going to let it just sit there for another 24 hours. And even after I finish stirring here, you can see slight bubbles forming. And that's a really good thing. It's not totally bubbly on the side yet, but it is getting there, and this is what we want. Once we got this culture big and strong, no looking back, we'll get it in the fridge, but these first few days are really critical to get that culture multiplying so we can do some awesome baking with it. Okay, lid goes back on. A slight twist just so it doesn't just pop off, but gases can get released. And I'm going to set this once again on my counter for another 24 hours. Okay, this is so exciting because our culture is just a bubbling. It is happy. So let's just take a look. Okay, so let's look inside first. And I'm going to just move it really gently. You can see the bubbles. Just take a look. You can see that there's some water that is settled on top. That's just fine. It's hungry. It's saying, hey, look at me. I'm hungry. The other thing is on the side, you can see some bubbles here. Now I moved it around. I should have actually showed you the side first, but I didn't. But let me just mix it up and let me show you. You can also smell the sourdough. And when you mix it up, there's lots of bubbles as you're releasing that CO2. Oh, it smells so good. Okay, take a look at that. And you can see it. So this culture is ready, and like I said, I should have showed you the side before I started moving it because you could see the bubbles on the side as well. So this culture is definitely ready to go. And even when it's relaxed, now that it's only relaxed, what? 2 seconds since I talked, you can actually see more bubbles forming. So even just it's sitting here, you can see that. Okay, so now that we are at this point where our culture is strong, we are going to give it a really good feeding. It's time to get into the fridge to slow it down. Otherwise, it just multiplies so crazy fast. And you can see how liquid it is here. So I'm going to make an adjustment here. I want this a little thicker. I'm going to put a half a cup of rice flour in here again. Just like that. But I'm only going to put a quarter of a cup of water. Just because I want it a little bit thicker. Not so runny. There, that's beautiful. And don't be scared to adjust it a little bit. Like if you think it's way too runny, it should be thick. It should be like a pancake batter. And just mix it up really, really, really good. And because it also had a lot of liquid on top, I'm just going to even make a further adjustment. So don't be scared to adjust this. Like I'm still fairly liquid right here, and I want it still a little bit thicker. And you know what? You'd rather give it a really good shot of food than having too much liquid. Just thicken this up a little bit more. So now I'm at 3/4 of a cup in here. There we go. That's exactly what I'm looking for. So let me just show you. Let me just mix it up. Like I said, like a pancake batter, and that's what I'm looking at. So look at here. So I'm just gonna tip it and kind of pull it out to give you an idea. So it definitely goes off the spoon, but it kind of goes off the spoon in lumps a bit. Okay, let me do that one more time. So just like that. It's not super runny, but it is running, but it's coming off the spoon in a little bit of lumps, and that's what I want. So this is ready to go into the fridge. So make that adjustment. You don't want it where, let's say you can just take it and just flows like a waterfall out. That's way too thin. I had it a little bit thin, and that's okay. Just make the adjustment. Like this is really forgiving. Just get it fed, make the adjustment, and you're good to go. And I'm kind of happy that happened on film because it really shows you how to correct that problem. So this culture is super, super healthy. It's ready to go in the fridge. Same thing, grab your lid, put it on, give that light, little tightness, and look at that, the lid's on. I'm gonna put it in the fridge. And I'm gonna show you what it looks like in 24 hours, just so you know what is normal, what is not normal, and you're gonna start seeing those bubbles. And we're gonna just keep it in the fridge right now and until you need to use it. Now, the question you're gonna ask me is, how do I maintain my culture from here? Very good question. So I'm going to answer that question in the next video. In the next video, I'm going to explain to you how to maintain your culture so you can have it year after year. I'm going to troubleshoot your culture. I actually have a culture that I have purposely neglected, and so you can see what it looks like neglected and how to revive it. We are going to have a lot of fun, and we're going to have a lot of fun together as we take some discard out, feed it, get it ready, and the next video after that, we're going to make some awesome sourdough brown rice pancakes together with all the discard that I'll take out on the next video. So I will see you tomorrow as I will show you really quickly what your culture looks like in the fridge after you feed it. And from then on, check out the next video as I'll show you how to maintain it. Take a look at those bubbles. Oh, this is exactly what you want. Look at that. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? Oh, look at that. Beautiful. So that's what you need, and I am pleased that this culture is super strong and healthy. So now that you have your wonderful brown rice sourdough culture happy and healthy, you are ready to make recipes. And you're ready to maintain it week after week. So watch the next video. I'll show you how to maintain it. I'll talk about discard. I'll talk about refreshing it, what you need to do when you go on holidays, and what happens when you forgot to feed it for a little while, how to revive it. All those questions I am going to answer for you in the next video. So right now, put that sourdough culture back in the fridge and make sure you feed it once a week. And then once again, I'll show you how to do that on the next video. So thank you so much for purchasing your brown rice sourdough starter culture from us. And I will see you on the next video.